All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown. Today is our St. Louis Cardinals 2020 season preview. They won the NL Central last year. What did they win, Steven? 90 games, I think it was. Uh,
91.
91 games they won, winning the division, so a low number there to win. Let's start like we normally do with the lineup. After that, we'll look at bench, rotation, bullpen prospects. So let's start with that lineup. Leading off and playing second base, Colton Wong. He hit 285 with 11 homers and 59 ribbies. He had a weighted run created plus of 108 and a WOBA of 344. So just, he's an average to maybe above average second baseman. You have Dexter Fowler hitting second, switch hitting right fielder again. This is our projected lineup. You could do it any way you want. I have him. He had 238 last year with 19 homers, 67 RBIs, a WOBA of 326, 103 weighted runs created plus. So an average major league hitter. Paul Goldschmidt. We mentioned this in the Brewers podcast. Ryan Braun actually has a higher weighted run created plus and a higher WOBA. But overall, Paul Goldschmidt beat him in production, hit 34 bombs with 97 ribbies. The shortstop, Paul DeJong, is cleaning up. He hit 33 bombs with 78 ribbies, a 322 WOBA, and a 100 weighted run created plus. So again, another league average hitter. Matt Carpenter had a really bad year last year, went from 30 plus home runs to 15 and 46 with 226 average. He had a 95 weighted run created plus, which is below league average, and a WOBA of 315, which is also below average. Then Tommy Edman. This is the real wild card in this lineup. One of their young players, center fielder in 92 games last year, hit 304 with a WOBA of 357 and a weighted run created plus of 123 with 11 home runs and 36 RBIs. Then a really sad stat line here. Yadier Molina, with age, his production is certainly going down. He had a 270 average last year with 10 homers, 57 RBIs, a WOBA well below league average at 303. Same thing with the weighted run created plus below average at 87. Then left field is definitely interesting. Harrison Bader has more big league experience than Tyler O'Neill. They have him projected as the starter in left field. Most websites do. I don't, though. I have Tyler O'Neill hitting eighth and playing left field. I think he's projected by all projection sites so far as having a better year than Bader. I think O'Neill should hit eighth and play left field. What is your view on this lineup, though, Steven? Because it's not terrible. It's not a bad lineup, but most of these hitters are just league average hitters.
Yeah, you got a lot of veterans. We talked about this a little bit last night. They have a lot of guys they have bred in their system. Guys who have played their whole careers with St. Louis. Yadier Molina. You look at Paul DeJong, third season in the league. You can look at Matt Carpenter as well. Nice season. I mean, so
Yeah,
guys that
Colton
are
Wong.
yeah, and then you got guys like Dexter Fowler. I mean, guys that have been in the league a long time. Average hitters, yes, but guys that they buy into winning, and that's what the Cardinals are all about. They find a way to win games. They rely on pitching some nights, and then hitting. They don't have to really score a lot of runs because their rotation is really good. Their bullpen can back them up as well, and that's where it goes hand in hand with where they got booted in the playoffs last year. You got swept by the Nationals, and the offense really just died. They scored 0 runs, 1 run in game 2, 1 run in game 3, and 4 in the final game in game 4. So you look at the problem with St. Louis is generating enough runs to win 90 games again this year, and I think you got some young guys that can really show up and give you some production. I got one of their prospects, Lane Thomas, actually playing left field in my projected
Oh,
lineup.
okay.
He played. It was his first full season last year. Batted 316, 4 homers, 12 RBIs. Played 34 games, 409 OBP. But guy who they have their eye on could be. He's on the 40-man right now. So you got this lineup could be shifted different ways. You got Bader, who had a 205, 12 homers, 39 RBIs. You got some young talent that could be switched in that bottom half of that lineup to flip the lineup over. If those guys pan out, this lineup can be a 90 win ball club again. But we'll definitely it'll be interesting to see who the production there. Like Carpenter, he had a really big fall off last year, and I think he needs to come back and get back to his old self in 2018 to if they want this lineup to produce like they want him to.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this Cardinal lineup and I think to myself, they're kind of the inverse of what the Brewers are. The Brewers really rely on offense, and they kind of put pitching to the side. Here on St. Louis, you got a lineup, they're okay, league average guys, but they really rely on that starting rotation and that bullpen. But more about this lineup here. I mean, the one thing that I really look at is that this lineup was carried last year by Goldschmidt and Ozuna's gone. And so you're
Hmm.
losing that cleanup hitter, left fielder, power bat, and he's in Atlanta now who beat you in the playoffs. So now you have Paul DeJong cleaning up. He did hit 30 plus home runs, but he only hit 230. He's listed as literally league average at shortstop. So I just don't know. This offense really confuses me. I think you could have a lot of potential here. If Carpenter bounces back, if you get the same production from Wong, if Tommy Edman can be a contributor, that's a real wild card. You brought up Lane Thomas as a wild card type of guy. So as long as you score enough runs per day, it's really a game by game thing. If you just win, score 3 or 4 runs a game, you get your starter to back you up, and you get it to the bullpen. That's how you win games. So they're, kind of a very traditional way of doing that. And that'll segue right into the rotation here. Jack Flaherty had an amazing year as the ace of this staff last year. He had a 2.75 ERA. This is the most innings that a pitcher's thrown out of all the pitchers that we've broken down in this division. He threw 196 in the third innings and 33 starts. His fifth though was 3.46, which is very interesting considering that his ERA was 2.75. That tells you, this Cardinals team, no matter what team they are always good defensively. That's a Cardinal way. And also something that contributes to that is Yadier Molina. He calls the perfect game there behind the plate. Flaherty also had 231 strikeouts, which amounted to 10 and a half, almost 10.6 per game, which is excellent. His walks per nine were above average, and his home runs per nine were almost considered excellent. He had 1.15 per game. Then they have Carlos Martinez. This is interesting. Started as a starter, got injured a lot, moved into the bullpen, did great in the bullpen last year, came to spring training this year, and they want him as a starter again. He's listed as the number 2 guy. Then they have Dakota Hudson as the 3 starter. He had a 3.35 ERA last year with 7 strikeouts per nine in 174 and 2/3 innings. That's 32 starts. Strikeouts a little low at 7 per nine. Walks a lot of guys too at 4.43. The FIP is a little concerning too at 4.93. Again, tells you how valuable this defense and Yadier Molina are. Dakota's kind of a guy, he's not going to run it up there with velocity. He hits 95 a few times a game, kind of sits in that 92, 95 range, really relies on stuff and mixing and matching. So it makes sense as to why that FIP is a little bit higher. Then you have Adam Wainwright. Dude, man, this guy is he is a guy who's been around for a while, 38 years old, 31 starts, had a 4.19 ERA, 4.36 FIP. Still striking guys out, 153 on the year. That's 8 per game and 3.5 walks per start. And then Miles Michaelis, if he's healthy, he'll be the 5 starter. Came over from Korea, 32 starts, 4.16 ERA, had 7 strikeouts per nine, was great on the walks and only 1.5 walks per nine. So, what is your view on this rotation, Stephen?
I like this rotation a lot. I like Flaherty. He's probably their most complete pitcher they have. A 2.75 ERA and 196 innings pitched, 231 strikeouts. His strikeout per 9 innings is it's amazing. It's at 10.5 per nine, and then his walks per nine is 2.5. It's ideally, if you're going to look at sabermetric stats and go in that route, that's where you want your guys to be. That's who you want to model it after. Definitely, guy was their horse last year. He had a .97 WHIP and really carried that rotation and really led the way. Only at 24 years old too, and then you have Dakota Hudson right behind him. That's where I have him. I have him in the 2 spot, going 16-7 last year. Wainwright, 15th season with St. Louis, which is impressive. He's older, but he's still winning double-digit games a year, striking guys out, like you said. And the major leagues, they don't ask you how you get it done. As long as you're winning games for the ball club, they're going to keep you around. Carlos Martinez is an interesting guy in the rotation, going in the bullpen, coming back and teetering back and forth in that role. So we'll see mentally how he translates the bullpen role back into being a starter. It's just two different things we talked about a couple pods ago, and then Mikolas will be definitely someone to watch coming off of injury if he's healthy. Definitely a guy in the fifth spot who can be essential. If you're going to have some bullpen days, there might be some time to give him some rest. But overall, I like the rotation one through four solid, and the fifth spot is definitely their weakness. But every team's fifth guy is always a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I mean, and a little bit. I mean, Miles Michaelis at a 4.16 ERA is not terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
you look around the league. I mean, basically, the really good pitchers, the 1-2 starters, they'll sit anywhere between a two, a low two ERA to like a 3.2. It's basically that full run range of what an ace is considered. Then 2 through 4 starters are a 3.2 to like a 4 ERA, and then 4 and 5 starters are usually that 4+ ERA. So he's right on the edge of being a 3 starter. You talk about, a 4.16 ERA compared to like a 3.7. That's a run every few starts that he would have to take off to be at that level. So it's not like he's got a lot of, room to work for. But now you look at that bullpen as well. They've got Giovanni Gallegos out there from the Yankees minor league system. This is a guy that they've turned around at the big league level for sure. 66 games last year, a 2.31 ERA. 93 strikeouts in 74 innings. That's 11.3 per nine. That's fantastic. 1.95 walks per nine as well. That's really great as well. They have John Brebbia out there, had a pretty decent year. He had 10 strikeouts per nine out of the bullpen, a 3.13 FIP. And then if they get Jordan Hicks back, this guy literally, I mean, he throws 105 miles per hour with that fastball. If they can get him back, that would be a huge piece. They also have Tyler Webb. He's decent as well, also from the Yankees minor league system. Nice lefty type of guy. Andrew Miller's going to have a nice bounce back year. This is a guy that used to be a top 5 reliever, and he's really fallen off in the last few years. And then they have Alex Reyes as well, who they could throw out in the bullpen. This is a guy that's had major injury problems. He's been a pitching prospect for them for the last 4 or 5 years. He's been supposed to have been one of their best young pitchers. He hasn't really pitched. And then they have Ponce de Leon as well in that bullpen. So pretty, average to above average bullpen, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys like Miller, who I think will have a bounce back here. He's got good enough stuff, throws the ball hard enough where he can find his way again if he can get the control back. You got Gallegos, who had a 2.3 ERA. I like his stuff too in 66 games last year. 3.05 FIP. Definitely guys you can work with. I mean, there's much worse bullpens we've talked about, and how they're going to piece it together. Here you got some cornerstones, and even you look at the prospects they have can really be good bullpen guys too if they want to call them up. And they got a couple prospects on the 40-man roster now, and that can be key bullpen guys. Throw the ball hard enough. So I like their bullpen. That goes hand in hand with their starting rotation. That's what's going to win them games. Like I said, they're the inverse Milwaukee Brewers. They don't rely so much on hitting, but pitching wins you championships and gets you to the playoffs year in and year out. And I think they'll be back in there again because of their pitching staff.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, I don't know about playoffs necessarily, but I do agree with you about their mindset. And now we'll shift to these top prospects. They've got some legit ones. They've got Dylan Carlson, an outfielder. He's number 17 on the top 100, 26 home runs in 126 games. That's a 448 WOBA, 161 weighted run created plus. That's like Yelich level at the minor league level. So that's significant. We'll see if he makes some inroads. They have a third base prospect at number 47 on the top 100, Nolan Gorman. He's decent. Maybe, he'll replace Matt Carpenter in a few years. And then at number 58 in the top 100, he's a little ways away, but they have Matt Liberatore at number 58 on the top 100. We'll see if he makes some inroads. What are those bullpen guys you were talking about on the 40 though?
So Jake Woodford, a guy who I played with in high school, actually, he was the first round pick, 39th overall in 2015. He's a 3.87 career minor league ERA. He went 9-8 last year with 3.87 ERA. 26 games started, 131 Ks, 1.3 WHIP. Hard throwing right-handed pitcher. They've worked him in the bullpen in spring training. Started a few games. A guy who's on the 40-man now who can be a key piece if he's been developing in the minors for now 3-4 years and was in Double A for a couple of years, worked his way up as an all-star there, worked his ass off in Triple A, and now he's there. And then you got Libertor, who came from uh, the Rays, and now I mean you got guys that prospects here for the Cards that can really come in, really just piece it together for them. And I think they're in the right direction. They built up. They traded some guys away. Jose Martinez was sent to the Rays for Libertor and catcher Rodriguez. So they're definitely in the right direction with their prospects, and they got some good young guys that can come in and fill in those pitching roles.
Yeah, Libertor is in that trade with Jose Martinez. You just mentioned that. That reminds me of another subtraction they had. I mean, why are you giving away a guy like Jose Martinez? A 300 hitter, you lose Marcell Ozuna and you decide to give away another bat. It's just really confusing to me um, in terms of that standpoint. I do like Libertor a lot. I think he can be good a few years down. The Cardinals
Hmm.
just seem to always have pitching. They always develop pitching. They know where to find it. This is an organization that has known how to win. This is going back, basically all of the 2000s, they've been competitors. Of course, before that, they've been a historic organization. They won World Series titles with Pujols. They won two of them, and they still have two guys from those teams, Yachty and Wainwright. So they still have that winning culture. So what are you giving them as an offensive grade here? I mean, not offensive, as a off-season grade. I would give it a C minus, just because you lose Ozuna, you lose Martinez, you add zero bats. They're basically counting on their minor league system and their bench guys to fill in those roles. They added no pitchers. What is your view on their offseason?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think you didn't ever added any, key pieces. You lost Jose Martinez, who batted 270 last year. And the previous years, he was a 300 hitter, as well batted 305 and 309 the years before. So you got rid of a 300 hitter, and you lost Ozuna to the Braves. So you never complemented those losses with anything other than you're going to rely on guys who have been built up in the farm system and no major league experience. So definitely a big question mark there. So that's where I give them basically an average grade for this offseason. Not too many things going on for them.
So where you got them in the division?
I got them winning it again. I think pitching wins you games and good young guys. I think the lineup will stay, even keel enough where they can score enough runs to win them games. But like we talked about, this division's so tight. It's going to be exciting to watch if we get to watch some baseball this year. I have them at 90 games right now, but it's going to be really competitive.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is where we differ here. I mean, these teams are so close. There's really no wrong answer, but I've got St. Louis in third over Milwaukee. I just think, that lineup, and this is actually something we should bring up. I think you said it yesterday. They were either 500 or under 500 against over 500 teams, I think is what you said to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that doesn't play 2 years in a row sometimes. They squeezed a division win out with 91 wins. That's not good to be, 500 against over 500 teams. You're supposed to win against teams that are at your level or better than you. So I don't like that. I think their pitching's very good. I'm not trying to downplay this team at all. It's just a lot of league average hitters in that lineup. The starters are great. I love the rotation, but their bullpens, is it even as good as Cincinnati's? It's definitely, it's on par with Milwaukee's, I would say. Probably worse than Milwaukee's, though, just because Milwaukee has Hader. But I don't know. I mean, I have St. Louis in this third spot. The way my division shakes out, because now that this is the last video, not video, but this is the last podcast for the NL Central, I have it as Cincinnati, Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee, and then Pittsburgh, with Chicago making the playoffs and one of the wild card positions. And what about your
So my
full order for the
division, I
division, by the
have
way?
obviously the Cardinals in the first spot, Cubs in second, and then the third spot. It's really going to be tough for me. I have Cincinnati, Milwaukee head to head, and then Pittsburgh obviously in last. So how it shakes down for me, it's solid. I think I got Cards, Cubs, Brewers, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. Like we've said, we can reiterate it so many times. It's going to be close. I like these teams are separated by maybe one game, one or two at the most. So in a 162 game season, so many things can happen, and I think the fourth place team in this division could be a division winner. It sounds crazy, but it's not too far off the talent that there is in this division.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I say, Cincinnati's got a better lineup than St.
Hmm.
Louis. They have a better rotation possibly than St. Louis, and they have a better bullpen than St. Louis too. So that's how I look at it. It's just, Cincinnati is complete in all three areas. St. Louis is complete in two of the three. Chicago is complete in one and a half of the three. Milwaukee's complete in one and a half of the three as well. So I just look at who's the better total team, and I say that's Cincinnati. But again, we're just picking hairs here because of how close they are. But that will do it for this St. Louis Cardinals podcast. This has been a great tour of the NL Central. Next, you'll be getting our NL West podcast. That'll be the next 5 days. And I don't know if you knew, was it San Francisco or Colorado in last place last year? That'll be the first pod for the NL West that we'll be doing. I think it was Colorado in last place, but that'll be the next pod. We also have NHL and NBA ones coming out this week. Please check those out. Follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. You can watch this podcast on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google Podcasts. And that'll do it again for the St. Louis Cardinals
Of
podcast.
course.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm Jacob, and we will see you next time.